I'd like to make the motion for the approval of 9A, the approval of Resolution 2025-05 in support of a national infrastructure bank.
Second. And motion and a second, and we have Ms. Alfecca here to join us virtually to present.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
So my name is Alfecca Mutardi, and I am a macroeconomist with the Coalition for a National Infrastructure Bank, which is helping to support a bill in Congress to create, in the U.S. Congress, to create a $5 trillion public bank to lend for infrastructure projects all across the country. And the reason we need one of these is because we simply cannot adequately finance infrastructure through the normal sources, through the federal budget, through state and local budgets, through private capital money. It's not working to fully cover everything, and now we have problems. The whole aggregate number has grown by an additional 40% over the last 4 years, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, who adds up all of our infrastructure needs. The idea is this bank will cover all of those needs. In particular, it would cover all of the needs in Pennsylvania and in the Delaware County areas. On the bill from Pennsylvania already were Chris DeLuzio, Dwight Evans, Summer Lee, and Brendan Boyle, and we're actively seeking to reintroduce the bill and get more members of Congress on board. So here's what the bank covers. It actually operates off budget, just like any normal lending bank to lend for infrastructure projects, and it covers everything that's mentioned by the American Society of Civil Engineers. How much extra money do we need in Pennsylvania, in the county, to repair transportation systems, water systems, upgrade the power grid? We add a few more categories that are critical: high-speed rail network to end congestion tied to transit systems, broadband everywhere, affordable housing, large-scale water projects. All of those would be covered. This notion of an off-public bank to do this has been done 4 times before. It helped to build, the first and second banks of the United States helped to build Pennsylvania, and we can rebolster all of that once again. And what's in it for the state and Delaware County? Up to $220 billion to cover all of the projects that you need. And while we're at it, we'll create 1 million new great-paying, family-sustaining wage jobs in the state. Many of the items that were mentioned today by earlier speakers would be covered by this bank. We would fully fund out all of the programs for SEPTA, not only the capital program, but the backlog of maintenance that's tying up, and will make that entity financially viable. We'll build affordable housing, rebuild schools that have $7 to $9 billion in need in the Philadelphia area. Hospitals, lead pipes, we need to get them out of the ground quickly. All of these would be covered. We can rationalize your transportation needs and do all the rest of the infrastructure which the area needs. This will really not only bolster the infrastructure, but it would really rebuild the economy in the area as well. So I'll stop there in case you have any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Any questions or comments from council?
I would just like to say that, this has come to us because the Coalition for a National Infrastructure Bank is trying to get this reintroduced. And what we've seen going on in Congress for a great many years, regardless of who's been in the White House or who's controlled the majority in Congress, is that there's been a real, I should say, hesitation to do deep investment. We had a really large infrastructure bill go through under the last administration. It was a bipartisan bill, but money deployed slowly. It took a long time to get that money out. There was a lot of politicization attached to how projects were defined and grants. And at the end of the day, the amount of money, while seemingly really large, wouldn't cover more than the infrastructure needs of a couple of the 50 states. And in fact, we're finding that a lot of that money is not going to wind up being spent. And, when there's other big projects that are needed, whether it's refurbishing existing projects or doing something that's critical to the well-being of an entire region, like the destruction, and the necessary rebuild of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, that got, you know, that's become a political football, whether it's because of the state where it is, or whether it's because, is this a federal project or a state project? You know, it's one of those things that needs an enormous amount of money to fund it, and where's that money going to come from? And it was presented to me as something to bring forward. I sit on the board of the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, which doles out a lot of the transportation dollars. And one of the frequent topics of discussion is how little money there is relative to the needs in the region. And, you know, it's irrespective of who's in political control. This has been a problem for a couple of decades. What this bank does is it allows people to use Treasury securities that they hold and effectively reinvest them in the bank. So the United States makes good on its treasuries, and those treasuries are effectively funding the ability of this organization to lend to municipalities and states, to counties, you know, municipal authorities, to fund some of our most vulnerable, and in many cases venerable, because it's been around for such a long time, infrastructure. That includes water systems with lead pipes, sewer systems with terracotta or even wood pipes, which they find every time they dig up a street in Philadelphia, you know, some of the older streets in Philly. So these are the kinds of things that need to be fixed. That $40 million that we need to put into the prison, that we are already putting into the prison, in fact, the roof and the kitchen and the security system and a lot of things that somebody was at great pains to tell us weren't in great shape in 2021, which we knew, and we're now spending money to fix, could have been borrowed at very advantageous rates by the county, with probably terms that would have been a little less I won't say onerous, but, you know, with a little bit more flexibility than we have under our current loan documents. So it's a really great idea. It's one I hope sufficient members of Congress see the value in. It sort of takes it off their plate, really. They can still make grants if they want to, but there will be a source of funding. People ultimately have to pay it back, but you can pay it back over a term, and it's worked. It's worked 4 times before in history. It got us through the Depression and all the public works projects of the 1930s and World War II. It got us through building the federal highway network, which is now desperately in need of reinvestment to keep it maintained. So I support this idea, and I've been trying to find ways to introduce other counties in Pennsylvania to it, and networking with other organizations, because at the end of the day, you know, tax dollars are great, but this is way too much money to do on a pay-as-you-go basis. And while borrowed money is still real money that has to be paid out over time, some of these assets are assets with lives of 30, or in the case of water and sewer pipes, 80 years. And imagine if you could pay it out over the 80 years instead of up front when you needed to get the materials and the labor to build it. And that's what this kind of a bank would allow us to do. So I support it, and I think, you know, we're trying to send a message to all of our congressmen and congresswomen, you know, take this off your plate. Create a bank. It's usually a 10-year charter, and it doesn't go on forever. It doesn't become some other super giant piece of government that's going to be out there forever. It lends out the money, puts it to work, and then pays off the bonds and administers them. So, and it's not going to be done by the government. It's going to be done by a bank. So I'm in favor.
I would just add that I join my colleague in supporting this resolution. You know, these assets, bridges, roads, ports, public transit, all of it, they take billions of dollars and years and years and years to invest in. And despite the fact that we have invested as a nation in these things, and in fact, as Christine just alluded to, have increased our investment, we're not there. And in Pennsylvania especially, Pennsylvania currently has the second highest number of poor condition bridges in the entire nation. So we need this funding, and we need to build and repair bridges and to build quality roads and keep our transit funded. We need it for a healthy county, a healthy, stable environment for us all to live in. So this takes time and money and work, and we don't have enough of any of these things to waste them while the infrastructure continues to degrade. So I go ahead and I join my colleagues tonight in urging the passage of this resolution to ask our federal representatives to make it a reality.
I would like to say I truly appreciate the comments I've heard tonight on the proposed resolution. And I would like to also add as well, one of the great projects that we heard about from our health department has revolved around their work to free our residents from dangers of lead poisoning. Something we should take a moment to recognize, the impact that this infrastructure has on public health. Pennsylvania has over 675,000 lead water service lines, including lines in Delaware County. A national infrastructure bank could fund the complete replacement of lead water lines and provide a textbook example of public policy working in ways that complement the overall health and wellness of our residents. Over 576,000 residents don't expect government to solve all their problems, but solving a major one, a long-standing problem that the private sector can't or won't tackle alone, is exactly what government is at all levels need to do. I strongly encourage Congress to pass this H.R. 4052 bill to create the National Infrastructure Bank. And I also want to say I appreciate the work and the words of my colleagues who feel the same way tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Molak. And I would like to join my colleagues here on council in supporting this resolution. We have talked about this for years in terms of just the infrastructure needs that exist just through our county government, and the buildings, the repairs that need to happen, the bridges that are behind and that we're trying to catch up on the schedule, the prison. And so there's so many projects, and that doesn't even encompass the municipalities and the projects they have in the school districts. This would be able to help all of those public entities be able to move those projects along quicker. And another big issue that we hear about on county council is affordable housing. And you would be able to utilize this bank to be able to also create more affordable housing, renovate the affordable housing that we have, and be able to improve that infrastructure as well. So I strongly support this resolution, and I look forward to seeing our members of Congress pass H.R. 4052 and create a national infrastructure bank so that we can take advantage of it here in Delaware County. Are there any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.